Happy Monday, you guys, or happy whenever you are listening to this. I don't have a ton of big updates this week. I will say, I always joke about the astrology of this podcast, which maybe one day, never say never. But if you've also last week, which this week when I'm recording it, felt so tired and drained, apparently the planets were compressing. But the only reason that I know this is because Garrett has a client, I guess, who's really big into astrology, and she was talking to him about it. And when he brought it up to me, I was literally like, oh my gosh, does she know that I'm into astrology? Because sometimes he talks to clients about me, sometimes not as much. And he was like, oh yeah, she knows that. And he didn't really have a ton of information on it, like how often it happened or anything like that, which is pretty rude. And I told him that I needed to start being in on those calls so I could take notes and learn, because I think that stuff is so interesting. Anyway, what else is happening? I'm going to rodeo with my brother. He is coming into town and his fiance. They have never been, and he is one that loves the cold. So he is pretty stubborn and doesn't think he's ever going to move here, but we are slowly trying to convert them into wanting to do that. My parents are not convinced that that will ever happen, but I am very persuasive and I'm very persistent, if anything. So I'm hopeful it should be a good time, but we'll just get right into the meat of it. But before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, follow the podcast. And if you've found anything interesting, make sure you send to a friend so we can keep the community growing and keep kicking it real. So this episode was inspired by one of my favorite carousels on Instagram that I have honestly ever created. And it was the one about putting your eggs in one basket as a dancer. And I do know this is a very controversial take, and I have so many thoughts on this. And also, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you are not one of these people, but also so funny to see people on the internet and they really will take something at face value and just like take it and run with it and not think about any nuances, which, I mean, to be fair, I don't like off the top of my head remember exactly what was said in the meat of the slides, like verbatim, but obviously there is nuance to this situation. And I think that especially in dance, there is a difference between versatility and being wishy-washy with your skills and what you want. If you listen to last week's episode, it was all about confidence and acting like you don't want it and being bold, saying things outside or out loud to the universe. I'm very big on that. And I think it kind of ties into that concept. So when I say that you should put your eggs in one basket, I don't mean only take one type of dance class. I'm not saying you should never take a hip hop class or never take a ballet class or never take a precision class. Like there is reasons for every class. And if you've listened to, I don't even know what episode, but things about my journey, when I was in Chicago trying to be a rockette, I was taking hip hop and ballet, two of which are not styles that the rockettes perform on stage, but I strategically looked at my options. I looked at my weaknesses and I took those classes because I had an end goal of becoming a rockette. I think especially that advice is more tailored towards dancers who are looking to go professional, to make some type of career out of it, because you have to take all styles to know what you like and what you don't like. I also want to reiterate, I don't think that putting your eggs in one basket means, I'm going to use the rockette example because that's easiest for me, but that doesn't mean you have to say no to any other opportunity that isn't rockettes. There are a lot of Christmas shows. There are a lot of musical theater performances. Like there are other things that will help you and give you performance opportunities. Would say no to would maybe be, I would say ballet company, but that would literally never happen for me. But like in theory, maybe I wouldn't do a concert performance company type of thing. Or maybe I wouldn't accept if there was like a full-time teaching position that was 40 hours a week, and it paid well and it gave you benefits. I'm not saying you have to say no to that, but if your goal is to perform, it's just thinking about how a job like that is very intensive and it's going to not allow you to work towards your goal. And I think finances are different for everyone. So again, I'm not saying you can't do that, but it's just that lens of looking at different opportunities and then looking at your end goal and think about what is actually going to help you get to that end goal. I think an easy example as well is thinking about someone like Misty Copeland, which I don't have to explain her. But like if Misty went to the Rocket audition, she probably wouldn't book Rockettes. And I say that actually maybe with a grain of salt because maybe she would because she's Misty Copeland. But you know what I'm saying? If she was just a very talented professional ballet dancer, but then she had no experience in precision and went to the Rocket audition, she probably wouldn't make it that far. Like she's one of the most amazing dancers ever. It has nothing to do with her abilities and her level of professionalism, but it's just because she is so good at her craft. She is an amazing ballet dancer. She did not train in precision. She did not train in musical theater or hip hop. Like that is just not what she did. That's not to say that she's never taken a jazz class or never taken a hip hop class or never done weight training. Like it's just that idea of not staying in your lane, but kind of honing in on what you're good at. And there's never a reason you couldn't pivot eventually. I'm not saying that you're like locked into that forever, but if you have a goal, like be realistic at it, because if you're trying to be good at everything, you're going to be average at everything instead of really trying to hone in on your craft. Another example that I really love, and I probably at this point will have made a reel on it because when I'm recording this, I was like, I need to make a reel on this, but it's the same idea of like an MLB baseball player. Like pitchers are not in the outfield. First basemen aren't also catchers because they play their one position and they play it well, right? Like baseball is the dance world. They play their position. It's like their lane, their style of dance, their company that they want to be in. But again, when you're a younger dancer, when you're a younger athlete, again, back to the baseball example, kids grow up and they probably played more than one sport. A baseball player maybe was playing football and basketball or tennis or whatever. And then as he got a little bit older, he probably was like, okay, I'm really good at baseball or I really enjoy baseball. I want to focus on that. Then they focused on that. And then I don't really know like all of the ins and outs of baseball training, but I'm sure at a certain point around then as well, they were like, oh, I'm really good maybe at the infield. And then they're like, I'm really good at shortstop. And then they went to college and they played that position. So they focused in on that because if they were trying to be a pitcher and an outfielder and a catcher, you're like, those are all different lanes within the same sport. So it's just that concept of you don't have to try to do everything. And I think people that get very offended by that, try to do everything. And there are exceptions to that too. Like I think like Michael Jordan. Okay, this is a little off the cuff because I didn't do any research on this, but like Michael Jordan is probably good at multiple basketball things, but I don't know. There's just exceptions to things like some of the major athletes who then they like play a different sport for fun and they're actually really good at that too. I know there are some real ones. I should have looked this up beforehand, but there are real examples of like professional athletes that then transfer to a different sport. And like there are people that are exceptions and you can pivot and a lot of the skills are very transferable, but you can like lock in. You can lock in on one thing that you want to do, put your eggs in your basket, really focus in. And there's nothing wrong about doing that. And there's nothing wrong about doing that and then changing your mind. So I think it's just like fully committing. It's that like go big or go home vibe and just trust that you know what's best for you and what your strengths are. So my quote I'm going to leave you with before I keep rambling is no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Good one. Good one. Easier said than done. But I think that inferior could be replaced with any type of negative feeling. So just remember that the next time you are feeling a certain way about a certain situation, you're in control. I love you guys. Please comment below if you liked this. Send it to someone that also needed to hear it and what you want to see more of. Just let me know. And I hope you have the best week and I will kick it with you next time.